Hello, everyone. It is Sunday night, and we are coming at you live from Bat City Comic Professionals in Bradenton, Florida. As always, I'm Shannon, aka Small Press Shann, here to help you wind down your weekend with all of this week's small press and indie new releases. This week, we are kicking it off with some San Gregorio wine. This is also a tempranillo, and it's got like every award known to man. Apparently, I don't know. It just seems to have like this, at least this gold star that tells me that it's going to be good. And it's a blackberry explosion filled with all of the spices according to the bottle, which is everything that I need in a tempranillo. So I'm really excited to wind down my weekend with this. If you're winding down your weekend with us, let us know how your week went. Tell us what how you're relaxing today. It doesn't have to be with wine, but how you're relaxing and celebrating a great new week in comics. We want to hear about all the books that you read in the comments while you're watching, and I'm going to tell you all about all the books I read, and we're going to compare notes and see how it went. I'm going to take a drink of this wine first and see how that tastes. There's it tastes exactly like the blackberry jam that we have. I guess we have an elderberry jam, but it tastes very similar. That is a blackberry explosion. And then it's warm in your chest afterwards because it's got all those tannins. It literally says it's got all of the tannins in the world in this one bottle. So it gives it a little bit of that kick afterwards. But this is delicious. I'm going to definitely enjoy this. I see how it won all the awards. And what are the awards that it won? It won the 2023 Decanter Worldwide Wine Awards. It had 95 points, which gets it a gold circle. And then it also won 90 points from JamesSuckling.com. I don't know what any of those awards mean, but you put a gold sticker on something and it means that it's good.
Over 90 and up is good for a wine.
90 and up is good for a wine?
90 and up is that's nice wine. Even 89 is nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an A in school, right? So,
right.
I mean, it's obviously you're out of 100, I'm assuming. So you're doing a fantastic job. Congratulations, San Gregorio. You nailed it. You got all the awards last year, and I'm happy to be experiencing it this year. We're going to slide that over there. We've got a couple of things to shout out. This week we had a lot of fun in the community. We were at the Bradenton Marauders game on Friday for First Responders Night. That was a ton of fun. We got to see a bunch of you. We had a cool little challenge at the table where people would roll the story cubes and try to draw whatever the cube landed on, and it's all in one little flip book, so it's kind of cool to see everybody's art. We got to give away some of the Will Eisner Spirit of Comics Week bookmark awards while we were out at the Marauders game. So it was really cool. We got to meet some of the kids who entered because we had kids from all over the community. So we got to meet some of them that entered. And we also got to meet one of our winners this weekend. So thanks for stopping by the store, Michaela. And if you haven't picked up Michaela's bookmark, you can do that here in shop. They are free. And again, congrats to the 4 winners of the bookmark competition. And I had so many parents who were like, is this happening again next year? Because my kids would love to enter. And yes, it will definitely be something that we do annually. So if you didn't get to enter this year, don't worry. There will be opportunity to do it again next year for Will Eisner Week in March. We also were at the Selby Library just yesterday for SRQCon. That was fantastic. We got to hang out all day in the library, which was a gorgeous library and so much fun to be in, and meet a ton of you down in Sarasota. And we had a awesome time doing a comic creation workshop. We had one of the kids, one of the teens that came for the workshop. It was all ages. We had kids as young as 5 or 6, all the way up to adults that were older than me. And so we had this wide variety of people in there. And one of the teens who came has probably been to 6 or 7 comic workshops with us throughout the community over the last 2 years, and we voted together that was probably the wildest story that we have ever created at a comic creation workshop. I'm just gonna say at the end of the day, the only way to stop the destruction of the world was for 13 people to stand in a giant pile of kitty litter and Kumbaya style sing Barbie Girl. So it got weird. But we saved the day in our story, and we're all safe now, don't worry. Or are we? Because, of course, we had a little bit of a cliffhanger. It was such a fun time. So thank you, everybody that came to our workshop. Thank you to everybody that stopped by the Selby Library for SRQCon and came by our table. It was great to see you. And as always, great to see all of our friends at the other tables. It's always fun to set some stuff up with them and get to hang out. And a huge shout out to Diego at the Selby Library, who was running around like a madman all day yesterday, making sure everything stayed on track. He did an awesome job. So, rock on, Diego, you nailed it. And then coming up this week, we've got, and we were also at the Island Branch Library last week. Oh my gosh, that was last week. We were at the Island Branch Library last Thursday for a comic creation workshop, and it was a sold out workshop, which, I mean, it was free, but it was sold out of seating, and it was so much fun. We had a blast there, and thanks for all the kids who came out for that. That was so much fun. This week coming up, we have our book club, our Fresh Start book club, where we read a book that we sell to you for $1, and then we only read that first issue, and we get to learn all about it. This month we are reading Astro City #1. This is an image first, so it's just going to have the whole first issue. It is $1 all the time, but we're going to learn about this story that at this point has become a classic that people are always like, ooh, I've heard of Astro City, but maybe I haven't read it, or I've been reading I read Astro City for all like 10 years that it feels like it came out, and so we're going to be reading that and talking about it this Wednesday at 7 o'clock. So come grab your issue and hang out with us. And if you don't have the issue, but you want to come and hang out and hear what Astro City is, come and join us for that too. And then on Thursday at 6 o'clock, we've got our manga meetup. So if you want to come talk about all of your favorite manga, that is when to do it. We are going to have just like seats open in the classroom, and you get to pitch your favorite manga to everybody else that shows up. So it's gonna be a blast, and I'm going to try to not just gush about all of my favorite manga and give everybody opportunity to talk about their favorite manga, because I know Matt and I could just ramble about our favorite mangas for forever. But if you have a favorite manga, come join us. If you don't and you are like super into anime and you always wanted to know about the books, come join us. And if you just have no idea what manga is but you want to make some new friends, come join us. It's going to be a blast. It's 6 o'clock on Thursday. And then this upcoming Saturday, the 13th, is our comic creation workshop, the open one for everybody. That is at 11:30 a.m. on Saturday. And that afternoon is a slam class. We are going to be talking about plot with our writing teachers. So come on out and learn how to build a plot for your story this Saturday at 3:30 during Slam. I'm going to take another drink of the San Gregorio before I get started. I'm trying not to drink it all because I'm like, it's so good, and I will just like drink the whole glass because I love it. But then we're going to kick it off. We're going to talk about some comic books. Oh my gosh, there's so many good ones. Okay. So, as always, we're going to go in order of the biggest number down to the number ones and the one-shots, so you kind of know where you're going. So up first, we've got Kaya, issue 19 from Image Comics. And this is our in-between. So one of the things that Wes Craig has been doing is every time we get to the end of a Kaya arc, he gives us one issue that falls in between, that's not necessarily connected to either arc. And so it's a full standalone, kind of like an annual would be at a Big Sue book. And so with this one, he's actually got Kaya in the future. And so while we've been following Kaya for the last 18 issues as she tries to journey to get her brother, the Chosen One, to safety and to training space, we now fast forward to the future, and Jen is not there. There is no little brother, and she is working essentially as a pirate, and she's trying to help keep people from being enslaved. And so she's going around with her team of pirates, and they are just busting into villages, and they are freeing people from the slave drivers that are controlling them. And I'm trying to find, I'm going to flip to the back. so she's been working on that. We get to kind of see her. We don't have any idea how that connects to where we are, and we're going to see that as the future goes on. But in the back, we do have a backup story that is done by Juniba, which is just a fun one about Kaya trying to get a cookie that's supposed to give you immortal life, and it's just a fun little mini shot at the back. But if you are looking for a really great adventure with a really strong cast of characters and all kinds of fantasy, this is a great time. You can jump in on this one because it doesn't, again, have anything to do with the story. It just gives us a little bit of information about who Kaya is and where she's going in her future. But he is saying that if you haven't jumped in, that this next arc might be a good time to jump in. We do have volumes 1 and 2 of the collected editions, and then all the issues for volume 3. So if you're looking to discover this series, now's the time. And you can definitely do that while you have a little bit of a break, because I don't think the next issue comes out until August or September. We've got Love Everlasting, issue 15 from Image Comics, and this is Tom King just giving us classic romance stories in the typical Tom King new directions that he loves to go in. And this is all about Joan, who is a woman who falls in love over and over again, and she doesn't really seem to have control over that, because every time she falls in love and is about to get married, she is murdered, and she wakes up inside of essentially another romance story. And we, over the course of the years, have figured out what exactly is going on. We know that her mother is kind of manipulating this. We're not entirely sure why. We do learn a little bit more about that in this issue. But we also have learned over time that there is a cowboy who she met in one of the love stories who has managed to follow her into all the other ones, and she is now trying to he is now trying to break down some walls that are not supposed to be broken down, at risk to himself, to try to help Joan figure out who she is and what it is that she really wants in life. And this issue gives us a chance to actually see that possibly happen for her, but maybe not. Will the story ever end? I don't know. Like, Tom can just keep giving us a restart, because the whole thing is built on this restart button. But Joan is, in this arc, been slowly figuring out that, like, maybe love, perfect endings isn't what she wants. And so we're going to see, I have a feeling, in the next arc, some really, really big changes for Joan. I Hate Fairyland, issue 15 from Image Comics and Scotty Young. This is the story of Gert, who is a young girl who went into Fairyland on a fun mission years and years and years ago, and has been stuck there ever since. And in this most recent volume, we've seen adult Gert come back to Fairyland and kind of make some bad choices and create Gertlins, which are essentially gremlins made of Gert. And now young Gert, who they have crossed paths with has also had some Gertlin experiences. And so over the last couple issues, she has been having to deal with destroying all of the Gerts. And the chance to do just that and to make it actually happen leads us to Gertzilla. And I love it, because there's literally like a conversation of like, is this the best possible way to fight the Gertlins? And they're like, I mean, if you could become Gertzilla, why would you choose any other option? And she's like, fair enough. It's ridiculous. It's funny. It's just one of those awesome light readings. And honestly, you can pick up almost any arc and kind of figure out what's going on in I Hate Fairyland and not be too lost. But it's always worth the read to go all the way back to the beginning. We've got Ranger Academy, issue 8 from Boom Studios, one of my absolute favorite titles on this shelf. I only don't put it in my picks of the week this week because I need other books to have the love, but you should know that I am obsessed with this book, and I am not a Power Rangers fan, so the fact that this book gets me every time, as well as all of the major Power Rangers fans, means there is a great cross-section for everybody in this book. But this is all about a young girl who had no idea Power Rangers existed until they crash landed on her planet. And when she decides that she's going to sneak onto their ship and return to Ranger Academy with them, she learns that there is a whole school and a whole world of people who protect the universe from dangers, and they have been going through these challenges to figure out what kind of ranger you're supposed to be. We know that there is a select group of rangers that have been just dissolved and not allowed to be a part of that. And they did actually connect it in this issue to everything that went on during like the Power Ranger stories that we've seen from Boom before. So the little reference point, like I was like, oh, I remember that being the name of a Power Ranger story. But our young girl has gone through a lot of trials and tribulations, and in this issue, in the last issue, a girl that she made friends with has brought her into the history of her lost sister and something that went wrong with her, and they were attacked by an evil entity, and now that they have fought that entity, they are going to face the consequences from the school for violating some rules. And yet, while she has been hiding a major secret from everybody, that secret should have been exposed, but may or may not get the exposition that it needs, and you're going to see that come to fruition. And if you're not reading it and you love young adult novels, just read it. It's like it's perfectly young adult classic storytelling, all of the tropes in all the best ways. Just read it. We've got Guma, the beginning of her issue 7 from Titan Comics, and this is the end of Guma, so I guess it is the beginning of her. Maybe we'll see more of the story to come. This is all about two characters, really, because it starts out a story of a woman who lives in a brothel and is being abused and used, and she ends up trying to get away and gets kind of double-crossed by another one of the girls who was supposed to be helping her, and that girl becomes this wicked, evil spirit who takes over all of the village trying to get her own revenge, but then just becomes this darkness in and of itself. And the other woman who had a child, the child has grown up and is now kind of the goodness in the world that is fighting back against this. And we see those two stories come to a head in this action-packed conclusion as the young girl actually has become, the ultimate like fighter of good. It feels like a movie when you're reading this issue for this story. Like, you kind of saw a lot. And this is a little bit of an oversized issue that gives us a lot more of the story pieces that were kind of like, that I feel like, oh, this is missing. Like, it kind of got brought into this one, so it wraps up really well. Everything gets really explained, and then you're like, oh my god, let's keep going. Give me another volume, because this could definitely become more. But we see a really great open ending that could give us more, but definitely leaves us with some awesome character growth from everybody in the story. So if you haven't checked it out yet, this is Jiang Li doing the whole art and story. So I know we see a lot of covers from them, and so it's really cool to see them actually doing complete interiors and writing the story at the same time. We've got The Sire, issue 6 from Drin Productions. This is the story of a new kind of superhero, one that comes to us from this world, the Mike Books Drin Productions world, and he is a superhero who, every time he puts on, like every time another superpowered entity is around, his suit comes to life on him. Like, he doesn't get to choose to put it on. It just automatically forms on him, which also puts all his powers into him. And the requirement is basically that if he comes into contact with another superhero, he has to battle them to see if they are worthy of their powers, essentially determining whether they're going to be good or evil. If they're evil, his suit absorbs their power and stops them from continuing. And if they're good, obviously, like, it lets them go. This we are calling the rebirth, because at the end of the last volume, he was kind of sucked away. We weren't really sure what happened to him, and now he has reborn with upgrades to his suit and upgrades to his mission. And so you're going to see exactly what those mission goals are in this issue, and kind of see how his Lois Lane, essentially, and his friends kind of come together to help him. We've got Charred Remains, issue 6 from Mad Cave, and this is the conclusion of Charred Remains. This is all about a young girl who, when she's this is about a woman who, when she's a young girl, she sees her family die in a fire, and she believes that she saw a man's face in the fire, and she's been convinced ever since then that there's like this evil man who is what is causing fires and like that lives in fires. And so she's kind of become a fire bug, a fire chaser, but not a firefighter. But she has made some connections with some firefighters, and she, over the course of this series, has been chasing down what she believes to be a cult of people who worship this fire god, and she is not wrong. That is in fact what they are. And she has been trying to stop them from stealing any other people, but also stop them from being able to grab any of the or to start any more fires, because they're kind of taking over the city with these fires. And she learns that they're the secrets behind the belief of the fireman and everything that comes with it. And in this issue, she is having to team up with some unlikely partners in this situation and her firefighter friend, and kind of put an end to this fireman once and for all. And you're going to see whether or not she's able to actually do that. Like, can you ever really stamp out a fire that is burning inside of people as much as it is outside? We're going to find out. We've got The Sickness, issue 5 from Uncivilized Books. This is one of those books that takes a little bit of time between each issue to come out, but you can kind of see why when you're reading it. And it has built up a very large following. It has a couple of different stories in it. One follows a doctor named George who has been researching over the course of his time people who get what they call this sickness right now. Like, they don't really know what it is, and they basically become delusional until they lose their minds, and then they kill themselves and everybody else around them, kind of situation. He's been trying to figure it out, and in this one he finally gets to do an autopsy on somebody who has had the sickness, and he sees exactly what their brain looks like. And while that is happening in 1955, we also have the story of a young kid who was back in the 40s who is suffering from the sickness, and his hallucinations are getting out of hand, so his family has kept him locked inside to try to figure out what's going on with him. But nobody can seem to figure it out, because we still have 10 years before somebody else even starts to research it. These stories, we see a little bit of even more of the future for the first time in this one, but we also learn that if you see the man that's following you, it's only a matter of time before you die. And our lead in the 40s, Daniel, has been seeing him for quite some time, so we're going to see how that plays out for him. This is one of those books that you cannot read quickly. This is a heavy read. The art is very detailed. You need to comb through all of it because it's very important, but you also need to read line by line of the story, and it's a heavy text story. So if you are looking for a quick read, don't grab The Sickness, but if you are looking for a great read, definitely do that. And also, it's so cool to look at all those images. The Last Mermaid, issue 4 from Image Comics. This is the story of a mermaid who is the last one. And she is living in a post-apocalyptic world where there is nothing but desert wasteland. And so she has to travel the world in a mech suit that fills up with water for her and her best friend, who is an axolotl named Lottie. And they travel around looking for different streams of water that they can connect with to fill up, to refresh her water, and to also have some time away from it. They have been struggling recently, though, because all of the water that they find is either drying up very quickly, or filled with monsters, or is toxic. They recently had to battle a monster, and when in the process of doing so, they made a new friend, and they asked the new friend if they are aware of where this giant trident that's supposed to go towards the sun, that is supposed to be the sign of a safe space for them to go to. And this friend is like, yes, I can take you there. I can show you where this is. And so we have to decide whether or not we trust him. And honestly, I'm more concerned about whether or not we trust our mermaid at this point. She's the one that seems to be very shady and hiding who she really is. And while we're getting snippets of this character that we're meeting, we still don't really know anything about her. So it's interesting to see what exactly she's going to lead us to. We've got Mortal Terror, issue 4 from Dark Horse. If you are a fan of the story of Dracula and you have want something a little bit different that also gives you the same story all at the same time, this is the perfect book for that. Because what they did is they actually flipped the story completely. I'm not going to show you that page. They actually flipped the story completely, and all of the characters in the original Dracula narrative that are humans are actually vampires, and all of the characters that were vampires are now human, including Dracula. And it's actually humanity that is the problem, and the vampires who are living underground and trying to keep the world, like their world, safe from people turning into mortals and coming out and attacking them. And so we actually saw in the last issue our lead, Jonathan, who you will know from your Dracula stories, was kidnapped by Dracula's brides, who are humans who are now trying to destroy him for information. Like, they are torturing him for information, trying to figure out where the vampires are. He is not cracking. We've got Lucy, who is running the troops, who is trying to go out and save him. We've got Mina falling in love with Dracula as per usual, and longing to become human. Even Renfield is desperately trying to become a human in this story instead of a vampire, and everything is really building towards a cataclysmic war of some sort coming our way very, very soon. I love this book. It's very, very classic Dark Horse looking because it has such a Mignola feel to the art and the storytelling, but it is not a part of the Hellboy universe, even though it looks very much like it. Definitely check it out. Again, if you're a fan of Dracula, this is very well written and a lot of fun to see a completely different version of a story, much the same. We've got the Infernals issue 4 from Image Comics. This is the story of the family of Morgensterns, who are one of the father of it, who is essentially our godfather, is actually supposed to be the Antichrist, and he is on his deathbed, and he is trying to figure out which of his children should take over and become the new Antichrist. And as he's evaluating each of his children, he realizes that none of them are really up to the challenge. You know, he's got 2 sons that are from his first wife and a daughter who is from his second wife, and none of them really seem prepared for what would come their way. Meanwhile, his first wife has now returned, and she is quite the mother of demons, if I do say so myself. And she is like, we have to get remarried, and you have to leave everything to me, and I'm the only one who understands what you're going through, and you should put all of this back in order. And so in this issue, he kind of tries to address that face forward, and he warns his daughter that if he does die, and when he does die, because we know it's coming, that she should betray her brothers and find a way to stand on her own, because there is an ultimate war that will come, and everybody from the depths of hell is going to come out and come after them. And she has to make a decision of, is she going to stand with her brothers, or is she going to find her own way to survive, and where is this going to go? And we see the beginnings of potential uprising in this issue. So we've got Cemetery Kids Don't Die, issue 4 from Oni Press, and this is the end of the Cemetery Kids. If you haven't read this yet, this is wild. This is one of those books where some kids play a video game, and the video game starts to kind of destroy them in the real world. And so in the very first issue, we see a young girl and her brother, who have been going through a lot, who kind of find themselves in this game only because, like, their dad doesn't have anything to do with them since their mom died, and they are just needing a place where they can be themselves. But at the same time, it's still not really helping them talk to each other and deal with the situation, the trauma that they've gone through. Meanwhile, their 3 friends that quest with them are also kind of experiencing their own problems, and within the game, the older brother gets stuck and does not come out. Meanwhile, all of the friends are starting to get attacks as well, and have different issues, like losing eyes and like stuff going on with their, like, getting burned. And the young girl who is just trying to keep her family together is like, I have to go back into the game to save my brother. And in this issue, they all agree to join her and do that. And it is not pretty to see the way this battle comes out, and whether or not they make it out alive, or if Cemetery Kids do in fact die, is what you're going to find out when you get to the end. Beyond Real issue 4 from Vault. Totally thought this was the last issue. It is not. We are going to have at least one more coming your way from this story. But this is all about a woman named June who was in a car accident and ends up essentially in the backside of the simulation that is our lives. And she has made some friends in that simulated world, and they are trying to fight their way through it because she wants to save her partner who has not woken up from the car crash, and she knows that there's a way to get into the simulation and rewrite creation and save him from the death that is definitely facing him. And so her and the group of people that she's made friends with inside the simulation are now into the place where they can face creation and make decisions, but they end up coming face to face with their biggest fears and the things that have stopped them from creating in their real life. And each one of them has to face that head on and kind of make a decision. And June is definitely the one who's like, I can see through all of this. Like, my motivation is my motivation, and I will find a way to create for my own happiness. And we're following through this path as she determines whether or not that's enough to get her through, and whether or not she's going to be able to save her partner is what we're going to find out in, I assume, the next issue being the last one. We've got Lilo and Stitch issue 4 from Dynamite Comics. And this is the end of arc 1, and it is a cliffhanger. Oh my goodness. So get ready for that. But if you haven't been reading it, this is all about, of course, people coming for experiment 626, Stitch himself. And Stitch is trying to keep his friends safe, so he goes away to different places, and every time Stitch lands in a new place, they come to attack him, and he ends up getting other people hurt or in danger, so he keeps moving on. In this issue, he ends up moving on to India, and he meets some kids who are trying to make a monster movie, and they can't get the acting just right for their monster, so they end up, when Stitch crash lands, hiring Stitch to play their monster, which is absolutely adorable. And all of the robots that have been trying to attack Stitch all this time realize maybe they like acting, and maybe they want to be in the movie, and maybe they want to make friends, and humans aren't so bad, and maybe Stitch isn't so bad. And so we kind of see them come to terms with that just in time for more evil robots to show up and battles to ensue. And if you love Lilo and Stitch, all of your favorite characters are in here. It has the same happy elements, and again, it is just ramping up because we've got 626 Day coming later this month. I know that there's going to be a special for that, but also we're going to have another arc of Lilo and Stitch coming soon, and I'm super excited about it. We've got Neurocron issue 4 from Invader Comics. This is the story of a detective who finds a man on a street who has been murdered, and everybody thinks it's just like a typical unhoused person on the street being attacked, but she realizes that there's something different because the autopsy reveals that he has all of this neurotech in his brain, which nobody's supposed to be allowed to do. She starts investigating all of the big tech companies, only to find out that there is way more going on with them than anybody has ever found, and she is now very deep in this situation. She is an FBI agent. She's supposed to be working with them, but she has gone way off the deep end and is now possibly in control of the situation, but very much not, because we have found that the people who run the major tech organization used to have a partner. We have found out what he is up to. It is definitely some tech enhancements that are illegal, and now she is going to this mysterious island that nobody's ever been to before, and it seems like everything's going to come to a head on that island, and we're going to see some really big falls. I love this book, honestly. The writing on this is really good. The character is really strong of our lead agent. The bad guy motivations work so well, and you're honestly still not really sure who is going to end up being that ultimate bad guy, which I love. Like, is it just going to be big tech is big tech? Or is it going to be that there's actually some manipulation and some bad things going on? we don't really know yet. And so I'm excited to see how this plays out. This is definitely one of those that leaves you a little bit on the edge of your seat every issue, wondering like what's going to happen and who's controlling who and who's manipulating who and who is going to come out on top. I don't really know, but I'm definitely going to keep reading to find out. We've got Edie, You Are What You Eat. You Are What Eats You, I should say. Issue 4 from Blood Moon Comics. This is such a crazy book, a very classic like horror movie for sure, and it's all about a young girl named Edie who is a high school student who's dealing with a whole bunch of mess. She, wants the cute boy in school to like her. She wants to have friends. Her parents have gotten divorced and her dad's kind of built that new family, so she feels really alone because her mom's always working. And she does get a chance to go out with the cute boy, and the cute boy is awful and terrible and does some horrible things to her. And while she is coming home that night from all of the things, she gets essentially the blob inside of her kind of thing, and now she has a hunger that she cannot control, and that hunger is causing her to consume people of all kinds. And so she has kind of felt like a victim to it up until this issue. She's still been very much like, I was hurt and I don't know what's happening, and this monster is inside of me and I don't know what it's doing to me. And in this issue, she kind of realizes she can control that and she can use it in her own way, and she is definitely using it to fight back now. And I can't wait to see how she actually resolves all that in the end, because it's so good. Like, Edie is like, I have made my choices, and I love it because there's like the voice of reason in her head that's like, you shouldn't do this and you should be very disappointed in the choices you're making. And she's like, hey, I wasn't the person that was a bad person to begin with. I'm just the person that's going to deal with those people. And I'm like, go Edie, deal with it. Go girl, get your blob on. And so it's a great series. If you haven't read it yet, check it out. It's a lot of classic like 70s horror style fun. So we've got Crashdown issue 4 from Whatnots Comics and the Massive Publishing. Actually, this doesn't even have the Massive on there. Oh, there it is. Okay, I was like, did they separate? No, it's still there. This is this story of a group of people who are in space. The Earth, we destroy it, as we so often do in stories, and the group of people who have now gone into space are at a place where they have found the planet that they are supposed to be landing on, only to find out that planet that they thought was going to be their safe haven forever is actually filled with monsters and darkness and creatures and death. And so the first group that landed there didn't work out so well for them. The few survivors are trying to get in touch with the ship. The ship does not hear them, so they send out some more people. It doesn't really work well for them, and now the ship is like, hey, we're out of food. We were supposed to land. Who cares if we haven't heard back from these people? We're just gonna have to take as many people as we can down. But turns out, can't take everybody. So they are loading up ships with people who they are choosing to bring down with them, and they're just going to leave everybody else to starve to death or die on the ship in some other way. And those people still don't know that that's exactly what's going to happen, because they're trying not to have like the Titanic panic situation going on. And oh my gosh, it's gonna be a mess when those ships do take off, and when they land on this planet. It's only getting worse. The longer you're on the planet, it seems, the more bad things happen. So who's going to survive? If anybody, we're going to find out. Under Heist, issue 4 from Boom Studios. Speaking of surviving, I'm not sure if anybody in this book was ever alive. So we're gonna see how that plays out. But this is the story of a man who has been trying to go on the right path with his life, but he's still in desperate need of some money to pay off some debts to some, bookies and things like that. And so he decides he's going to do one last job, and that always works out incredibly perfectly well for everybody who ever says that in any kind of storytelling. And he has done that one last job, And when he finds himself coming home from that job, it turns out it didn't go well. And he starts to see a lot of the people that he was on the job with, and they may, in fact, not be alive anymore. And now he's starting to wonder if he's alive, if anybody is alive, if he's in some kind of purgatory, or if he's just died and gone to hell. He doesn't really know, but the only thing he can think of is maybe he just needs to get the money, find where it is, and give it to the bookie, and maybe that'll get him out of here. Like, maybe he has to make amends in whatever way he can. He comes up with the plan. The plan is not really going so well for him. This guy has the worst luck. But again, might have been dead the whole time. Who knows? We could fix this at the very end. Not really sure. Still trying to piece it together. It's like reverse version of Ocean's 11 and stuff, where like I'm not trying to figure out how the team is going to pull off this heist. I'm trying to figure out if the heist pulled off the team. We're gonna see. But if you haven't read it yet, it's such an interesting version of a heist story. You should definitely check out. We've got Minor Threats, issue 3. This is from Dark Horse, and it is our latest volume. I believe we're on volume 3, technically, of Minor Threats. If you haven't read it yet, basically, it's a whole new superhero world from Patton Oswalt, but it is done all from the villain's point of view. It's all about minor level villains who, in the first volume, the main superheroes of the universe get killed, and people start blaming all the villains, and they kind of have to, these minor villains have to team up essentially to defend themselves. And in volume 2, we see our lead character become the leader of all of these minor villains and kind of starts to put the town back together in a whole new way. And now in this one, a new group of superheroes who kind of don't have a moral code are coming after her to take her down. And in this issue, they decide the best way to do that is to go after her mom, who is also a former minor villain. And so they go to kidnap her mother and, you know, do what usually you would expect villains to do. But in this story, like I said, the heroes are kind of the villains and the villains are kind of the heroes. And she has no idea because she is at a charity fundraiser, so she knows nothing about this happening. And her partner is the one who goes to try to save her mom. And this is obviously going to just continue to add to the tension between them in their relationship, both as business partners and as actual couple. This is such an interesting take on the superhero universe. If you haven't read it yet, again, it's such a flip-flop. It's almost like the way Mortal Terror is to Dracula, this is to superheroes. I definitely recommend it, and Patton Oswalt is always a great writer. We've got Dead Weights, issue 3 from Ahoy Comics. Speaking of a different take on superheroes and villains, this is another great one. This follows two guys who were villains, and they get kind of tired of always losing. And one of them is like, I'm not only tired of losing, but I'm starting to think maybe we are on the wrong side, and like we're the bad guys, and I don't really know if that's who I want to be. And so in the first issue, they quit being superheroes or supervillains, and they try being heroes, and it doesn't really work out the way that they thought it would. It's not an instant shift because, of course, everybody sees them as villains and doesn't expect them to do the right thing. And now they've been brought into a group of people who are like, oh, well, we can turn you into heroes. You can essentially come to our hero training. Only they find out when they get there that it is not, in fact, hero training. It is a trap, and they have been imprisoned, and they are being tested on, and all kinds of terrible things. And so in this issue, they are trying to find their way out, because if they don't figure out a way out of here, the other person that's trapped near them is like, you will never get out. Once they separate you, that will be the end. The only strength that y'all have is that you have each other, and so you need to use each other to help you get out. And so this is kind of our attempt at breaking out and figuring out whether or not they are going to make it through. We've got Humbaba, issue 3 from Blood Moon Comics. This is another one of those like B-level horror movie kind of comics that just gets you excited for weird monsters and creatures in familiar places. And so we have been following the swampy area where the Humbaba lives, who was let out in the first issue by a man who made some terrible choices. And now he is at the point where he has to essentially hunt down this terrible creature that he's let out and kind of save everybody from it. It has not ever gone his way in the last 3 issues, but in this issue he is definitely trying with a little more strength and a little more intellect, try to push into it to find his way through the swamp and battle these creatures. And creatures is totally relevant because we are no longer just looking at the Humbaba, but we are seeing lots and lots of big giant monsters and gross looking bugs coming his way. And so we've got a lot to fight. We're gonna see if we can get through it all by the end of the next issue. The Accursed, issue 3 from Blood Moon. I have been waiting for this issue to come out. It has been a little delayed, so I'm glad it's finally here. This is all about a girl named Olivia who was cursed by a hedge witch and has been forced to carry this curse forever. And she was originally trying to follow in her family's footsteps because her mom was, also the area witch and things like that, and supposed to be doing all these good things, but it didn't work out, and now she's cursed. And now when she tried to leave her brother so that she could go solve the situation on her own, because she feels like she keeps bringing her brother down, she is kidnapped by some bad people who are going to take her to the witch, who are going to try to wipe out this family forever. And so she's got all of these people coming after her. And her brother is now oh my God, I left my sister. I shouldn't have done that. I need, our family's whole thing is that we stick together. I've got to go out and I've got to save Olivia. And so he is now, suiting up to become a hero of the day and hopefully save his family. But we are definitely dealing with some big creatures and some big battles coming our way. And we're going to see if this family can put it all back together again and save each other. And hopefully they do, because that would be really cute. And I would love to see them not hate each other. All right. We've got the Working Class Wizards. This is issue 3 from Band of Bards. And this is a double-sized issue. They've all been, for Working Class Wizard, it has been 2 issues in every single issue. And this is the wrap up. So this is kind of issues 5 and 6 if it was single issues. But this is all about a group of people in the 70s in Chicago, and one of them is what we call the Working Class Wizard, one of them is a weapons maker, and one of them has just found out that he is our chosen barbarian that has to fight against the darkness for us, because there is an evil wizard who we thought was gone but has now returned and is coming to destroy all of not only Chicago but the whole world, and wants to rule the world with his dark magic. And so this wizard has brought his barbarian and his weapons maker forward to fight them. They also have got to come up with a way to connect with other people. So they bring in the elves and some of the fae and try to work together to stop this. It's hey, if you were supposed to be monitoring this dark magic, you failed just as much as we did, so we need to all come together to fight this guy. They're doing their best to do just that in this issue, and we're gonna see not only their teamwork building, but also their battle against this dark wizard to see who makes it, who doesn't. Can we save Chicago in the 70s so that it can exist today and we can all eat wonderful hot dogs and some delicious pizza, or is this the beginning of destruction? You're gonna find out when you read about this Working Class Wizard. And they're such great characters. They all have immediately had great defined character traits and roles that I can tell you how I expect them all to answer based on situations. So it's really cool to see the development of this come to fruition so quickly. But if you haven't read it yet, check it out. All right, before I get to the number 2s, I'm going to take a drink of San Gregorio wine. Again, it's a tempranillo, so it's a little spicier, but it's also very rich in blueberry flavor or blackberry flavor. So I'm super excited. I love that it tells you drink now at the bottom of the description. I'm you're right. I should drink some now. That's delicious. All right, I'm gonna slide you back over San Gregorio. Whoop. All right, we're gonna jump into the number 2s. So up first, we've got Deathstalker, issue 2 from Vault Comics, and a little man named Slash that you may have heard of before. This is bringing back Deathstalker. Like, if you are a fan of the sword and sorcery, like 80s movies and stuff, you may have heard of Deathstalker. He is a character that has existed before. And he is back on a new adventure. He is supposed to be fighting for this queen to help, organize some things, get them all back together, because there's evil in the world and he's got to fight it. He's got a new partner in this, and they have been making some choices that end up with creatures getting killed, but also them getting all of the spoils of victory out of it. And in this issue, they are going off to fight together against a new villain, and he kind of they have a team of people that are supposed to be going with them, and they wake up in the middle of the night and their entire team is gone, and they're like, what happened to the team? So they go into this castle to search for it, only to find out that there's essentially like a cult in there just slaughtering their people, and they're like, oh my god, we have to stop them. And it doesn't always work out the way you want it to, and the Deathstalker has to come to terms with what it is that he really wants out of life, and how he's going to slash people down to get it. But again, if you're a sword and sorcery fan, if you're a fan of things like Barbaric, this is definitely a great addition, or Conan the Barbarian, or any of this is a great addition to your world. Everything at the back half of that book is a spoiler, which is why you only got to see the first half. Bear Pirate Viking Queen, issue 2 from Image Comics. This is such an elaborate book of all kinds of craziness. And so in the first issue, we kind of followed the story of the bear, essentially. And in this one, we are following the story of this Viking who is works with the bear, but is also just kind of living like that Viking life. It kind of shows through some of his adventures, shows him get the name the Viking and all of his power that goes with it, and it kind of takes us on a big journey for him and shows us what it's like to be this Viking and all of the evils that he's fighting in this world, and all of the things, all the mayhem that he also is causing himself. I love this book because you do get I love this because they're like, do you know who the problem with everything is? And they're like, it's not a bear, it's not this, it's not that, it's England. And it's like, they are trying to rule over all of your people, and everybody keeps getting attacked by them, and so we should push them aside. And so we've got some attacks, some fights, some cool moments, but like I was gonna say, I love this book because I do love this watercolor-esque art that just kind of blends it all together and makes it feel almost like lost pages of a story from the time that it comes from. It feels like I found a scroll of stories of this ancient Viking text, and I'm seeing this man go through all of these journeys with his bear friend, and they are also on ships and serving as pirates and fighting against England and standing up for their own brand of justice. And so it's such a cool story. If you haven't read it yet, grab issue 1. Second prints of issue 1 came out this week as well, so if you didn't get a first print, the second prints are out, so you can grab 1 and 2 and jump into the story. The Land Left Behind, issue 2 from Blood Moon Comics. If you ever wanted to know what it would be like if King Arthur and his team of people got sucked into the prehistoric days of the dinosaurs, this is going to give you all of that right there. We are following a group of knights who went out to investigate just a new land that they were kind of taking over, only to find themselves going through a pass and coming out in a new place in time, and dinosaurs were afoot. And now they're kind of stuck in here, and they don't really know how to get out. And it's nighttime for the first day after all of these dinosaur attacks, and they don't really know what to do. They're kind of regrouping, and we get to see a young boy who is the one in charge of the local, keeping all the pets safe. He's supposed to make sure everybody's dogs and horses and everything are fed, and he has no idea that these dinosaurs have come to attack and what's really gone on, because he wasn't with everybody during all of their battles today. And so he's just kind of heard the tales of it, but now that night has fallen and the knights with the K are all being terribly crass humans who just don't deserve anything in this world, he finds himself standing up to them only to, you know what, I don't want to show you only to find out that at nighttime you can't see where the dinosaurs are. And so while he's like, oh, during the day we had all these dinosaurs attacks, and they're like, oh, we're fine now because there's nothing out there because everything has gone to sleep. It's like, nope, no, not all dinosaurs sleep at night, and now you can't see them. So some wild, crazy dinosaur stuff happens, and everybody should read a book about wild, crazy dinosaur stuff happening. We've got Biomechs, issue 2 from Black Box Comics coming up next. This is a story of a futuristic world where we've kind of fallen apart. It's like, I guess, a cyberpunk future. We've kind of fallen apart and rebuilt, and now that's kind of falling apart. And so there are these people who are leading a rebellion against this terrible world, and in it, there were two siblings in the first issue, and they learned that as biomechs that are twins, they have the ability to fuse together and create this ultimate biomech. And maybe if they did that, they could like go through time and pass like all the, fix everything that's happened. And so in this issue, they've been sent back in time to get the codes for all of the bad guys, like ships and everything like that, so that they could hopefully stop it. But they're like, why don't I just stop the war? Like, I could just end this right now. There's nobody here to stop me. And they're like, you can't end the war. It's a fixed point. The war has to happen. And they're like, that doesn't make any sense. And they kind of learn about the inevitabilities and how you can't really change things in time travel. But they're like, well, then is it going to matter if I even get these codes? And we kind of see a little bit of that come into play, but we also get to see them facing some bad guys from the future and from the past all at the same time in their cool mech suits with their cool mech powers. So if you're into the Transformers books right now, if you're into RoboForce, if you're into any of those mech cadet kind of things, this is another great mech suit book for you. Even Dawn Warrior, like Dawn Runner, it's great. Like mech time, honestly. If you're into mechs, it's a good time for large robots and mech suit fighting. We've got Space Ghost issue 2 from Dynamite. This has been so popular with fans of Space Ghost pre-Coast to Coast. Everybody's Space Ghost Coast to Coast, of course, is also going to pick it up, but it's really cool to see all the people come in who are like, for me, Space Ghost has always been more of a pulpy hero, and this feels like it actually nails that, and so it's really great to see. In issue 1, we saw 2 kids who were on a space station with their dad, who was doing experiments on some animals and managed to create a special something that a bunch of other people want. Everybody's been coming for it. People came and attacked the dad and the spaceship, and the kids went into hiding, trying to protect the monkey that they have that has all of this special powers as well as themselves. And only one man could come and save them, and that was the Space Ghosts themselves. Now in this issue, he has taken them to his home planet that he lives on, a ghost planet, if you will. And he's having to deal with being a babysitter, which is not something Space Ghost was prepared for. He's never really taken on helping children before, and so he is not happy about the fact that kids ask too many questions, expect food to eat, and expect better resources than what he's giving them, and also don't know to not press buttons. And so they end up with some big problems in this issue that should have been entirely avoided, and as they have to work together to put it all back to normal, Space Ghost learns that he's going to have a little bit more rules, but also a little bit more openness with the team if they are going to, in fact, be a team. We've got Wicked Tales #1 from Blood Moon Comics. I think this might actually be a one-shot, but this is all about a guy who is one of those Crypt Keeper kind of esque people who is telling us that he can bring us some stories about dark events that have happened in the world. Like, he's like, I was there, I saw these things, I've got some crazy stories for you, turn the page if you want to hear what they are. And so we get a little lead in of of that situation, and then we kind of go into our very first story, which is actually in prose format, which is really cool, because you are giving us like multiple kind of stories and an anthology style. And so while you could do all of them in comic format, it was kind of cool to have one that was fully prose, that was about a detective that makes some bad decisions. And then we have another story about a record producer who is making some choices to do to control his people in some very different ways. And so and each of these stories are only like 1 or 2 pages long. And then we've got a story about a person in Vegas who is in some casinos, who's also kind of like, hey, anybody can do whatever they want. You can make the choices you make, but something, you're always going to get your comeuppance situation. And we kind of see how that plays out for them. And then we also get to see that, sometimes it's not just the mobsters that get their chance to strike back, but sometimes the other people working around them are going to strike back too. So just some fun little anthology stories. Like I said, most of them are only like 1 or 2 pages long, to kind of just give you some wicked tales from our new host of stories. We've got Precious Metal, issue 1 from Image Comics, and this is from the world of Little Bird. But the thing about this is that this is a prequel companion story, so it doesn't necessarily set up Little Bird, and it doesn't necessarily you don't have to know anything about it. This actually takes place 35 years before the story in Little Bird. So if you just want a really cool futuristic story, this is definitely going to be a great one for you. And it follows a guy who is just kind of trying to take down some people. He ends up saving like a kid from, like, his job is to go in and like get people and like take them out of places, usually like a bounty kind of situation. And he ends up going in, and the person that they have him get is a small child, and he's like, I don't trust that they want me to bring this child, especially not because it's these acolytes from this cultish belief system that runs our world. And he's like, I don't trust it. There's a reason they want this kid. Why do they want this kid? What are they going to do to him? And so he can't let it go, very Mandalorian-esque. And he ends up looking for some people to give him some guidance into how to get into the acolytes temple and figure out what it is that they're going to do with this kid. And when he gets in there, he kind of learns exactly how dark the situation is and what they're all into, and kind of see some of the creatures that they are working with and are creating. Really, really cool story. Again, if you haven't read Little Bird, it doesn't matter. This is a completely different story. But if you have, it's going to just definitely give you a little bit more in that world, if you've been waiting for some more. So definitely check it out. It's so really good, like sci-fi, but also like really good like commentary on just like the way that the governmental systems build up and like use people, and like the way sometimes the resistance can be one person and it doesn't necessarily work out the way that you want it to. Speaking of resistances and one person, we've got Scarlet, issue 1, as a part of our Skybound Energon universe, which is your Transformers G.I. Joe crossover, which is where you may know Scarlet from, is G.I. Joe. Normally a spy who works for the government and does things by the book. Scarlet is much like Duke, kind of finding that she's going to go in her own direction. And in this issue, which is our launch point for her story, she goes to a place where they send her, and they tell her that she's only there to do some recon and get information on buyers in a human trafficking situation. And Scarlet is like, if I see that there are people who are being trafficked here, I'm going to save them and I'm going to stop the traffickers. I'm not going to just get intel. And they're like, yes, you will. You must only get intel. That's all you're there for. And while she's there, she sees a former colleague, a friend, somebody who she has an intricate connection with, and they leave some clues behind and tell Scarlet not to get involved and not to follow her. So of course Scarlet immediately follows her and goes down the rabbit hole and learns what is going on and is offered an opportunity to go undercover possibly and save her friend from whatever she's involved in, and maybe do some real good in the world. And so she takes the opportunity and she heads out in an attempt to go undercover, and we're gonna see if it works out for her, because it was a little shady and sketchy at the beginning. I don't really know, but as with all Inner John universe issues, we have a setup for even more characters from your G.I. Joe Transformer world in here. So for G.I. Joe fans, there's a great another push towards that G.I. Joe like fan world that you aren't going to want to miss. So if you didn't pick up Scarlet and you're reading Inner John, definitely pick it up. If you didn't pick it up and you're a G.I. Joe fan, you absolutely need it. And honestly, if you're just a fan of Kelly Thompson, who was nominated for like every Eisner in the world this year, you should pick it up because she writes a great spy story. She won the Eisner for her Black Widow story, and we're definitely going to see a lot of similar characteristics and storytelling in this spy book with Scarlet from G.I. Joe. They could not have chosen a better person to write a redheaded female spy story than the Eisner-winning Kelly Thompson. We've got Coins of Judas, the Gambler, issue 1 from Band of Bards, and this is our newest Coins of Judas. If you didn't read the one-shot that came out previously, you may want to, just to give you a more well-rounded view of what is going on in this story. However, they do kind of give you a little bit of a backstory in here, so you won't be completely lost. But if you don't know, Coins of Judas is about just that. They are about the coins of Judas, which are the cursed money that Judas was paid for betraying Christ. It is said that those are basically tied to all of the demons in this world, and you can summon a demon if you have one of those coins. In this universe, there's different families and people who are meant to protect those coins and keep those demons locked up. Our family, the Westergaard family, the siblings have just reunited for the first time after the death of their father and the release of the sister from prison. And now she comes back only to find out that her brother has sold off the coins that they were supposed to be protecting to save himself. And now they are trying to go out to find all of those coins all over again and to stop the evil that is coming. And in this issue, they meet somebody who was also supposed to be a coin protector or a demon themselves, basically somebody who comes with a coin, and they are going to see if they can work with this person to try to get the coins back and stop the gambler who is in possession of many a coin that they are going to need. If you haven't read it, again, I suggest reading the one shot before you jump into this, just because it does give you a little bit of information about the Westergaard family. But if you do just want to jump into the action, this is where you're going to do that, and you'll learn a little bit along the way as you go. Falling in Love on the Path to Hell, issue 1 from Image Comics. I love that everybody that grabbed this book this week was like, I'm grabbing it because the cover and the title just sound completely sell me on this. It's very Star Wars-esque cover, but also the title just sounds insane. And you do get that from the story. We are following 2 main characters. One is a cowboy in the Old West who is the bandit, who's not the good guy. And he has got some people holed up in a church, and he has made some decisions and they don't work out for him, and he ends up dead. That's how our story starts in the very first couple pages. And then we flip to a woman who has been working as a samurai in a rebellion against a dynasty that is just an absolute terrible empire. And she is trying to defeat this evil empire. If she has to do it all on her own, she also finds herself not going the way that she wants to go, and they find themselves on the path to hell by this waking up and seeing this island, essentially. Not sure if they're alive or dead. We're not really sure either. We assume they're dead. We're very, at least one of them, we're very certain. And they find themselves on this island having to follow a path that is going to lead them one way or another to somewhere beyond, and they're not really sure where it is. They don't really know where they're going. They can't really communicate with each other, but they're going to have to bond and apparently fall in love on this path to hell. This was really great. This is Jerry Dugan who's writing this, and he just always tells a really great story. There's so much in it. Like, I feel like I know so much about the world. I know so much about the characters. I already want to see the way their interactions are going to go, because they're both like really strong, awesome fighters, but they're also both like not back down people. And there's going to be a lot of backing down that's going to have to come from them if they're going to work together. And so I can't wait to see where this one goes for sure. Speaking of books, I can't wait to see where they go. Beyond the Pale, issue 1 from Dark Horse Comics. This is only going to be a 4-part series, and I'm already disappointed it's 4 issues because I am really invested after the first one. But this is all about a woman who is a photojournalist and award journalist who is convinced that there's something wrong happening in Vietnam during the Vietnam War, and so she ends up going to join a battalion that a lot of men are going missing in action, and it seems to be like a lot of very like more so the men of color that are going missing, or the kids that they don't like want in the battles anyway. And so she's like, I came to investigate this. I want to see what's going to happen. And of course, like, they're like, you don't need to be here. This isn't a place for a woman. And she's like, well, I'm going to be here, and I'm going to be a part of this. And she ends up getting paired with all of the new recruits who they don't want to have around, and I'm making some good friends with them, only to find on the very first day that she goes out into what they call the suck, some crazy things happen, and a lot of things she wasn't expecting happen in the situation, and it really opens up her eyes to the fact that maybe there's more to war than just fighting other people. And this does have some very big supernatural elements that I'm not going to spoil for you as you flip through read to the back of the book, so I'm not going to flip to those pages. But if you didn't read this week, grab this soon, because it is going to be one of those stories that just absolutely has great storytelling, great characters, and is going to say some really cool stuff, I'm sure. But I cannot wait to figure out what is happening because it's so insane. So I can't wait. Issue 1 totally sold me. It's going to be fantastic. We've got The Mammoth, issue 1 from Mad Cave. We always say Mad Cave is crushing it right now, and they continue to do so with this book. This is about a group of research scientists who find out that there is a place that keeps registering really high on, like, as if it's having earthquakes or something, but it's not actually having any earthquakes. There's no fault lines there. There's absolutely no reason for it to happen. And so they're not really sure what's going on. And so they've decided, like, as geologists, it's their job to go out and investigate. So on one of the days that they're there, something happens, and one of the women in their group is dead. She dies, something, and it's all on their speaker system while they're recording, and everybody is like, I don't know what happened. And they end up doing an investigation, and they can't figure out what's going on. But so they decide they're going to go back to the scene to see if they can find any of her tapes or anything that she was working on, to find some more information. And what they find there is even less explainable than what they thought was going to be there. And so now they're even more confused about what is lurking in the woods around this place, whether or not it's real or fake, or whether or not it's something that is controllable. They will never find out. They don't think they'll ever find out, but they are going to keep investigating. And it gets weird really fast in the way that Paul Tobin is so good at doing. And so it's such a fantastic story. I can't wait. They really built out character connections very quickly in this, and I love the way that they did it. So this is going to be a good one. If you didn't pick up Mammoth this week, this is going to be another one of those Mad Cave books that we're constantly talking about on the show as just an absolutely great book. All right, a couple of one-shots for you. We've got Monster High Pride from IDW. Way to go, Monster High, for releasing a Pride book. Happy Pride Month again, everybody. I was so excited to see this. I love Monster High, and I love that we're getting new Monster High stuff. And so this is all about a couple of the Monster High characters wanting to build a space for the summer that they can all hang out. And they're like, we don't really know how to build anything, but we think it would be really cool to go into the like woods and find a spot that's safe for just like our friends to chill. And they're like, we should be really good at this. But as they try to build something together, they just keep arguing with each other. They're like, one of the girls is like, well, I really want to do this and this and this. The other one's like, okay, well, we should probably focus on this. And they're like, aren't couples supposed to be good at building stuff together? Like, shouldn't we just automatically like work in harmony because we're a couple? And they feel like there's something wrong with their relationship because they're not on the same page exactly as they're trying to build, even though the end goal that they want is exactly the same. They're just like completely different ways to go about getting there. And then they go into the hardware store because all of their tools end up missing. And so they go into the hardware store only to meet another couple who helps them figure out how to build and how to communicate. And there is one of the best relationship pieces of any story that I've seen, and I love that they put it in here because one of the members of the couple they meet, Bridget, she asks her partner if it's okay if she leaves. She's like, hey, I know we're all having fun building and everything, but I'm gonna go if that's okay with you, and I promise I'll come back later. And they're like, oh, aren't you upset that Bridget's leaving? And her partner's like, no, everybody needs to have their own personal space, and we do a lot of great things together, but one of the things I understand about Bridget is while I love to be out and social, like that's not always how Bridget feels, and she kind of needs like her personal space when she needs it, and so I let her take it, and we always come back together, and everything is wonderful and amazing because we support each other and who we are. And I was like, this is so great, such great relationship advice for everybody. And then we get an awesome backup story about one of the vampires who is an emotional vampire, and he doesn't know how to control those emotions, so he's never really figured out how to like really have a friendship or have a relationship. And he kind of realized he wants one of the magic people in the school to give him a potion that will help him never have feelings again. But as they work together, he realizes that maybe isn't what he wants, because now that he's with somebody all the time that helps him understand his emotions, he feels like maybe it's just he's never given his emotions the right thought in the right time. Such great communication conversations in this book, such great strengthen relationships and showing people how to do it, as Monster High has always been really good at doing. They've always been so great for that in all of their stories, books and TV shows and movies and everything. It's always a fun time. If you've never read it, this is a great one to pick up. Or the free comic book day issue if you want to just get to know the Monster High people before more books come out. But again, this is a great, not only a great Pride book, but also a great relationship book, and I think that everybody should read it and take the advice of all of the relationships in there because it's so good. We've got Archie and Friends, the blockbuster movie special that comes out every summer. This year's special is fantastic because it is highly featuring the Wizard of Oz. So I'm a little biased. But the first story, because we always get two, is a very short one in which they introduce a new character to the Archie universe called Pool Noodle. And it is all about the Deadpool character, essentially, and the Deadpool movie that's going to come out, and how the only way that that movie will be good, according to this story, is by adding more and more cameos. And how many people can they shove in there from every universe ever? And they're like, what if we add in characters from this universe? What about this universe? We've got to have a cameo. If there's not a cameo, then it's not a good movie. And then Archie's like, aren't there too many people in this movie now? And they're like, there can never be enough people in the movie. It's fantastic, and it's super short. And then it leads us to Betty trying to have a yard sale, and in the middle of her yard sale, she goes inside to get something, ends up bonking herself on the head. A storm comes, she ends up in Oz, and her ruby red sneakers must travel through to the Emerald City to get home and away from the wicked Queen Veronica, who is trying to steal her shoes. And I love it because Veronica's mom is like, don't you have enough ruby red tennis shoes? You already have like 80 pairs. It's fantastic. They nailed who is which character. Jughead is the Tin Man, but instead of needing a heart, he wants a bigger iron stomach. And also he can cook pizzas in his tin suit. And is constantly cooking more food in there, and it's wonderful. You can never go wrong with the Wizard of Oz story, and Archie nails Summer every time. We've got the prelude, I guess we'll say, to the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is launching soon, and this is TMNT Alpha. This is our new, if you've been following along, you know that Sophie Campbell's been doing the Ninja Turtles for quite a long time. 150 issues of Ninja Turtles have just wrapped up, and now we are going to get a new story from Jason Aaron. And we get 2 stories in here. The first one is all about a man who is trying to prove that he's tough, so he goes to this place where you can fight essentially the mutanimals, and he thinks that they're just regular animals, but he gets there and there is one creature that is the strongest that's never been defeated, and he is of course a Ninja Turtle, and you get to see which one and hear the story. It's on the cover, so I guess it's not a spoiler. It is Donatello in the long way home. He doesn't remember his family. He doesn't remember how he got here, but he is trying to break free and save everybody else. So this is our prequel to Donatello's story that is coming later this fall, and the Ninja Turtle story that is launching in 3 weeks.
Are those Eastman interiors?
No, and it looks like it. It is actually Chris Burnham on art, and I had to check that twice because it looks so Eastman-y. And then we do have another story that's called about Monster Island, and this is a Hobbs story, and they are trying to deal with a woman who has been a scientist who has been living with the mutanimals, who didn't feel like she fit in even there because she was a human, so she's trying to turn herself into a mutanimal, and it doesn't necessarily work out the way they want, and this is them going into kind of figure out why she's like, what is this person that's attacking things, and why is she doing the things she did. This Hobbs story, the old Hobbs story, feels very much more connected to the Sophie Campbell stuff that just ended. So there was a big thing that this was going to be a hard reboot, but it does seem like that has a little bit of connecting point to it. But we do get to see what Jennica is up to as well, and so I'm hoping that means that we're going to continue to see Jennica even in this new Ninja Turtles world, because I love Jennica, and I think she should be on the team all the time. So, all right, I've got 3 picks of the week for you this week. Really 4. I have 4 picks of the week. So we're gonna jump into those really fast. First up is Cult of the Lamb #1 from Oni Press. This is one of my picks of the week because it's the most adorably dark things in the world, and I love it so much. I had somebody come in today specifically looking for this book, and I was so happy to get to talk to somebody about it who actually played the game, because there is a video game for Cult of the Lamb that is available apparently on all systems, including the Switch, which I just learned today. I have never played the game. Don't need to read this book is the key to know, but it was really fun to have a conversation with somebody who's like, I'm obsessed with the book or the game, so I had to read the book. But this is all about a little adorable lamb who is the last of his kind, and some heretics are slaughtering all of the things that they feel are gonna prophesize to rise up against them, and so he is the last of the lambs, and they slaughter him, and he ends up in the afterworld, and this evil demon-y spirit is like, if you start a cult for me, I will restore you to the world so that you can get your vengeance on them. And he's like, yeah, vengeance, I want vengeance, let me go back to the world. And so he gets back to the world, and he has all these powers of darkness, and so he goes after these heretics trying to get vengeance, and he's trying to make it back to the very ones that attacked him. And then he has this guy that's like, hey, I'm supposed to be here to help guide you on your path to starting your cult. And he's like, boo, cult. I'm adorable. I don't want to start a cult. And he's like, well, you have to, or you're going to lose all your powers and all of your life. And he's like, I just want vengeance. And it's adorable in all of the best ways. And then he's like, I'm not going to start a cult, but I will give people a happy place to live where they can all be together. And he's like, so, like a cult? And he's like, if you need to call it a cult, you can call it a cult. I'm just giving people a happy place to live where they won't be attacked by these evil people. And while I'm doing that, I'm also going to get my vengeance. It's so cute. It almost made me want to play a video game because I really wanted to see this little lamb be adorable all the time. But seriously, so cute. If you're one of those people that's like, I love books with animals in it, this is definitely going to be the one for you. And if you love like darker humor, it's going to be a book for you. And if you love video games and you're playing this game, you absolutely need to read this because it kind of just feels like I just read the opening of a video game, honestly, like where they kind of give you all the like the backstory of it and you see like this happen and then the person get their powers. It kind of feels like I read all that part of it. It's so good and it's so cute and I just want to snuggle him. So I'm sure there's plushies of him and I kind of want one because he's so cute. Up next we have Profane #1 from Boom Studios. So right now we are in like a resurgence of detective stories and those like classic like noir kind of storytelling. This is a really, really cool spin on that because we are following a man named Profane who is investigating a murder in the very first pages. And on the very first page, while he's investigating that murder, he passes out while he's there and he wakes up in a bar and it's been hours later and he has no idea what happened. He can't remember what he saw. He can't remember how he got to the bar. Everything just seems kind of wrong. And so he, while he's there, of course, meets a femme fatale femme fatales, and he's like, I don't know where she came from, but she knew so much about me, and I have to figure out who that is. And he's like, I need to go back to the scene of the crime. I need to figure out what happened. And he kind of learns some really, really big things about who he is. And his connection to the murder victim. And I can't tell you what it is without ruining it, so I'm not going to tell you on issue 1, but I will tell you on issue 2, so this is your chance to get in here. You know what, this will be the closest to spoiling it I'm going to get. This is your chance. You have to read it now before I completely and totally tell you what it is on issue 2. So you got 1 month. Grab this. It's such a great detective story, but in a completely different way. He doesn't know any more than we actually know more than he does about the case the whole time. It's so good, such a twist. Check it out. Peter Milligan always tells a really good story, and we're definitely getting one from this already. Also, that cover is so cool because that's like the femme fatale's like silhouette. That's like, oh, it's so great. I love it. Okay, anyway, read the book. And speaking of things that you need to read and things that I want to cuddle, I still want a Kanto plushie. But Kanto is back. Bum ba-dum, bum 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 ba-dum bum bum ba-dum bum bum. And it is now with Dark Horse. So if you have read Kanto before, you know it was an IDW book previously. It is back. It is now at Dark Horse, and I believe this is going to be our last arc of it. So if you haven't read Kanto, he is wonderful, and this is one of my all-time favorite comic books. And it is the story of a little clockwork knight. He is a knight his group of knights where all their hearts were stolen by an evil sorcerer and replaced with clocks. When the clocks die out, so do they. And Kanto discovers the world could be a wonderful, beautiful place, and he wants to save all of his friends because they are amazing creatures. So he, in Volume 1, goes to battle to get their hearts back from the sorcerer. And he has been working on that battle to save his friends for the last 4 volumes. This is Volume 4. It's all about storytelling. It's all about heart. It's all about love. It's wonderful. And now in this volume, Kanto is finally, hopefully, going to have a showdown with the sorcerer. And in this issue, he thinks that is what he's doing. He has gone to the sorcerer's castle to save some of his friends who have been captured, but also to come up face to face with the sorcerer, only to find out that is not the plan in place for him, and there's gonna be some loss, some love, some wonderful storytelling. It is so good. I think we have volume 1 in stock. I'm hoping that Dark Horse is going to be putting out hardcovers of the volumes, because they are out of print for the trade paperbacks with IDW, and like you can't get them anymore. So Dark Horse, I believe, is reissuing all of the first 3 volumes, but they're going to be in hardcovers, and you know I'm gonna own them. But you should too, because this is so good. Seriously, I've written like letters on and essays on how much I love Kanto, because I love it that much, and it's all like a huge allegory connected to like the Wizard of Oz, which makes me happy. And then lastly, Prez was released in graphic novel size form for young adults from DC Comics and Mark Russell, and it has, for the first time ever, a brand new story. And so this is all about a young girl. Let's see if I can actually find the page. She is a 16-year-old girl who works at a corn dog factory. Or not a factory, a corn dog restaurant, and she goes viral on the internet for getting her hair stuck in the grease fryer while filming a training video. And while that is all happening, a virus has come across all of the world that is killing everybody, and we have 2 candidates for president, one of which is a very corrupt man, and one of them that hasn't really done anything in his time as president. And everybody can't decide who they should vote for, so they start writing in the name of Corn Dog Girl. And the corporations who control who actually gets voted for from behind the scenes are like, hey, we can't let this happen. We need to make sure she doesn't actually get any electoral college votes. So they start trying to bribe the electoral college members, only for that to backfire in their faces. And you get to see a lot of commentary on the American justice political scene in a way that only Mark Russell can do. It's so fantastic. And you do get to see a 16-year-old girl become president of the United States and what she would do with that. This has all of the issues of the original Prez series, like I said, plus a couple of extra issues, including a great story about her having to go to a gala slash session on women's rights, and all of the people who are in the room are not women. And so she has a lot of things to say about that. In a lot of ways she wants to change the world, and completely wonderful Mark Russell satire. This is fantastic, and honestly a great way to talk to young people about why it's important to vote and what our political system needs and contains already. It's so good, and it's got a lot of Mark Russell references to other books, and I think he wrote it in 2017. I think is when it originally came out.
It was
so
2015.
Was it 2015, 2017, something like that? So it's crazy how weirdly accurately Mark Russell predicted the future in that book. Like, so much of what he says in that book actually happened, and it's kind of crazy. And also it's kind of fun to see, because so many of Mark Russell's books that have come out since then have had little nods to, like, have expanded off of what he did in that book. So it's really cool. We've got some in stocks for you this week. Continuing the Pride celebration, DC Comics put out a DC Pride celebration of Rachel Pollack, and you're going to get to see some Doom Patrol stories, I believe one of which was not released before, but you are going to get to celebrate Rachel Pollack and trans rights and DC Pride, so grab that for sure. We've got Rebel Moon, House of the Blood Axe, issue 4 from Titan Comics, which is the adaptation of Zack Snyder's film. Godzilla had a Rivals one-shot, Mothra versus Hedorah. We're celebrating 25 years of IDW, and also I think we had the 70th anniversary of Godzilla? 70th anniversary of Godzilla issue a couple weeks ago, so it's fun to have some more Rivals coming out with some, and I'm always in for Mothra. My Adventures with Superman issue 1 out from DC. This is in between season 1 and season 2 of the animated show. So if you are watching the show, you're definitely going to want to read this. I want to read it because it just looks so adorable. And I read like the first page and I was already like, oh, this is great. And I had a really big Superman fan tell me that the show and this book is just like why we love Superman. Like everything you love about Superman is in that story. The Walking Dead Deluxe. These are the color reprints of The Walking Dead. We are at issue 90, so we are getting up there. Suicide Squad Kill Arkham issue 5. These do come with codes for the game if you're playing it. Shazam issue 12. Get Fury number 2, which is actually bringing back the Marvel Max. I've heard this is actually even more violent than the Red Band Blood Hunts. Carnage issue 8. We had the launch of the big Marvels and the end of the X-Men Krakoa era this week. So Scotty Young is doing a whole thing called Big Marvels, which is going to have Scotty Young covers all across all of your Marvel titles. It's really cool. And then X-Men's Krakoa era has ended with this issue 700 or issue 35, whatever you want to call that. And this is a huge oversized issue. The Ultimates issue 1 has launched. So if you're reading the Ultimates universe with Spider-Man, Black Panther, Captain Marvel, no, X-Men, then you need to also grab this, the Ultimates, and Jonathan Hickman is writing that. We had Star Wars High Republic issue 8. We had Kneel Before Zod issue 6. We have Amazing Spider-Man issue 51, and then for all you Spawn fans, we had both Gunslinger Spawn 32 and the Scorched issue 30 this week. Poison Ivy continues to be amazing at issue 23. Ghost Rider's Final Vengeance hit issue 4. And What If Aliens hit issue 4. So we are getting some aliens also getting what ifs at this point. We had Batman issue 148. And The Boy Wonder issue 2 from Juniba. And I just love Juniba's art. It's so much fun, and his storytelling is always so cool. And just look at how he made that like little Red Hood look. Oh my gosh. We've got Birds of Prey issue 10, Blood Hunters issue 2, continuing the Blood Hunt world that is happening. And then we've got a couple of trade paperbacks still in stock. I will say Petrolhead came out this week. I already sold that trade this week, so we will get more because I love that book so much. So if you didn't know it came out this week, you should run to a comic book store immediately and grab it. We've got Grizz Grubus and the Tale of Azkan's Heart. This is one of those crazy, off-the-wall, like Distant Planets, Prying Scribe, crazy corrupt governments, and all kinds of random weird art and stuff going on. So definitely check that out. For those of you who are on the Ghost Machine train, they have released a deluxe edition of Geiger. This is the original 1 through 6 story hardcover. It also has the Geiger Giant. This is just, if you have been reading the new Geiger, and you were looking for the old one, this is a great way to add it to your collection. Or if you're just a big fan of Ghost Machine, you should definitely grab that. And then we had the launch this week of DC's newest thing, which is DC Compact Comics. And so they are releasing classic and fan favorite stories in small versions. We call them backpack size. Matt's been calling them lounge fly size because they fit in tiny backpacks like that. But these are $10 copies. And so this is the Court of Owls. And so it's got that New 52 Batman 1 through 11, that whole saga of the Court of Owls. And it is again, it's only $10, and you will not get that story for $10 anywhere other than in this. And speaking of things you're not going to get for $10 anywhere other than in this, you're never going to see a copy of Watchmen brand new for $10 ever again, other than these DC Compact ones. If you need a Watchmen for your backpack to keep on the go with you, this is definitely one of them. Yeah, to see the difference in size between a comic book and these DC Compacts. A $10 version of Watchmen, brand new, not a used $10 copy, a brand new one, complete story, all 12 issues, and fits in your purse, fits in your backpack, wherever you need to throw it, which is super cool. And then, does it actually, yeah, and it does have all of the pieces are there, so all the prose stories are actually there. And if you haven't read the prose portions of Watchmen, you still haven't read Watchmen. You gotta read it all because there's so much in the prose that's there, especially if you watch the show. If you watch the HBO show and you didn't read the prose on Watchmen, go back and read it because that is all of the plot for your show. It's so cool. I love that DC's doing this. There's going to be I think the first round of these, there's 5 or 6 of them in different titles, and then they are going to be launching more over the course of forever. So I'm glad to see them. Don't forget, this Wednesday we are reading Astro City #1 for book club. Starts at 7 p.m. on Wednesday. We are probably going to be moving book club to Thursday nights starting next month. So come on out this month and talk to us about Astro City and help us choose next month's book. Also come out this Thursday for our manga meetup. Talk about all of your favorite mangas that you're really loving. And then bring the kiddos out on Saturday at 11:30 for a comic creation workshop. It's going to be a fun time. And if you have kids who really want to take their writing a little bit further, this Saturday at 3:30 we have our Slam Academy talking about how to build a plot in your story and all the ways that we do that, and it's going to be detailed and it's going to be fun. So come join us for all those things, or just come join us on Wednesday for New Comic Book Day, because there's a lot of great comics always coming your way. We hope to talk to you about them then when you show up, but until then, happy reading, everyone. Bye.